Dean Weston is an artist from the Central Coast of New South Wales who has played in various bands over the years and performed with artists such as Tanya Kernigan and Amber Lawrence. He is now a solo artist, releasing the EP Giving All I Have last year. The latest single from that EP is It's Easy. We're going to talk about the EP and about the single and probably about him playing live. In fact, definitely about him playing live. Hello, Dean.
Hello, Sophie. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. But I'm not going to start with the single or the EP. I'm actually going to take you
Okay.
right back to the beginning of your
Okay.
musical life and ask if you played an instrument as a child.
Well, yeah, I did. Guitar was the first instrument, so
Okay.
it's basically I got me and my sister got guitars for Christmas one day, just a couple of acoustic mid-size kids
Mhm.
guitars, and I got the book, like the Ernie Ball Learn to Play Guitar book, and I learned all the chords, and I must have been, I can't remember, about 6 or 7 maybe, and yeah, so sort of started from there. But it actually started probably before that, when we used to pick up the tennis rackets and pretend. So yeah, so if that's playing an instrument, it started from there, from
Do
playing
you
the
think
tennis rackets.
your parents saw you doing that and thought guitar would be a good idea, or had you actually said something about it?
Must have been. I can't remember how it turned out. It was either we asked for it and then it was a surprise for Christmas, or we knew we'll get them. I can't quite remember, but yeah, it was the kids wanted want to be musicians. So, and my sister learned how to play bass later on. So we
Oh.
yeah, so we sort of had our own little band. And the next door neighbour knew how to play drums because his dad was a drummer.
So you had a built-in rhythm section.
So I had the rhythm section done. So yeah, so that was lucky for me. So basically, yeah, it goes back to the end, and I started writing songs, and we went for it. And
All
so
right.
by the time I was 10, I was having guitar lessons at 10, and yeah, and then it takes off from there.
Because I don't think still many kids under the age of 10 would learn guitar because it's quite an instrument to carry around, for one thing, if you go to the lessons, and a lot of kids don't want to be bothered with the luggage. And also because it's just, there's violin, flute, there piano, there are other more traditional instruments, I guess. So when you were learning guitar at that age, were you and your sister the only kids you knew who were doing it?
Yeah, well, I think so. Yeah, because in school, yeah, I guess you learn the other instruments like the recorder and the
Oh, yeah. How could I forget Dean, the
the
recorder?
recorder. Yeah, so music class, it wasn't really rock band class.
Yeah.
So we said, no, we're going to do it ourselves. So it's probably different. It's different these days. Kids learn a lot of different instruments now that they can play the drums and the bass guitar and all that. So, but back then we just had to do it ourselves, and it comes from uh, you want to be like your idols. Like it started with the Beatles, so we wanted to be, John and Paul. So it starts from there, and then you get to hear all this great music as you grow up, and you just want to do it. So you learn yourself, and it's guitar. It was guitar for me. So the recorder didn't
Do
didn't
it.
do it for me. So yeah, or violin or anything like any traditional instruments. Or I learned a little bit of keyboard, just the chords, but I wasn't really a piano player. So it was just, yeah, guitar is the go, and guitars is what I heard and saw on telly. So that's what I wanted to do.
I'm shocked and appalled that the recorder didn't do it for you. I can't imagine why you didn't love that
Yeah,
particularly tin sound.
yeah. Sorry to all the recordists. What are they called?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know that there are any, is why we can't think of a name for them.
I'm sure they're out there, and but I don't hear them on a lot of the records that I listen to. So maybe
No,
that's it. So
that's it.
there you go.
So if you wanted to be John and Paul, is that why your sister switched to bass?
Yeah, yeah, I suppose she had to play bass. Yeah, yeah. I guess that's what it was. And to be, because there was 3 of us, somebody had to play bass. So she
Right.
was the Paul, and I was the John, and yeah,
Oh, it
and
was the Ringo.
Mick next door was the Ringo, and that was it. We were set. So
Yeah.
all good.
So were you rehearsing in your garage or in a bedroom? How did it start?
Yeah, it just started in the bedroom or the lounge room, wherever we could just have a go. Before we had a drum set available, we had the biscuit tins out, so and the wooden spoons, and you just start there as kids, little kids, and then but eventually we were able to use, like I said, my next door neighbour's dad was a drummer, and he had a rehearsal shed
Ooh,
at his
nice.
place. So we used to go see his band play, and then we had the rehearsal space after they finished. So, right, let's go.
That's pretty good.
So that's pretty cool as well. Yeah. And the guitarist in that band that was in that band went on to greater things, and I learnt guitar lessons off him, a guy called
Right.
Dave Leslie.
Right.
Yeah, so yeah, the Baby Animals. So he's from the Baby Animals. So I was lucky enough to have a really good guitarist right there teaching me stuff.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's golden time in my life those years. So yeah, really good.
well done on your parents for getting a house next door to such a fruitful musical environment.
Oh yes, it's that was yeah. It's the parents that started what started it for me, because I used to play records all the time. So there was
Okay.
always records playing in the house, and the stories that they told me that the records were playing when I was a baby. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, and they had this automatic record feeder that would play like 12 records or something and switch them. And apparently, by the time I got to the last record, I knew that was going to be the last one. So I'd start
Right.
whinging to mum and dad, the song's going to finish, put the
Okay.
records back on. So,
Right.
that's the story. I don't know if it happened, but I'm sure it was like that. So, and they say that, so it's in my blood. It's in me. So the
Mhm.
music is in me from that, and luckily my parents had good taste in music. So I like the stuff they're listening to. They had all the good stuff. So they had the old stuff like the Elvis and Beatles, but they were keeping up. In the 70s, there was so much good stuff coming out. Fleetwood Mac and Neil Diamond was a big one. So
Right.
it was good to hear all those classics. And then you had country music as well. So
Okay.
country music was big in the 70s as well. It was huge. So
Mhm.
yeah, and you had a lot of country influences in the rock music. So
Mhm.
there were a lot of crossover bands. The Eagles was probably the best example.
Mhm.
That's a big influence on me, is the Eagles, because they're rock and country.
Mhm.
So if you can take a bit of their blend of those two
Mhm.
genres, then and put it in your music, you're not going to go far wrong. So they're, yeah, good bands.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there one band in particular you can remember being a little obsessed with as a kid? So because I think when you're a musician, you probably have a tendency to lock on to something early because and obviously for you, when you didn't want the records to stop playing, you were already really interested in music. So I'm guessing there was
Mm.
probably at least one act, if not more, that you were very much focused on.
Yeah, well, when I was a teenager and I started learning guitar um, properly and started playing well and writing songs and becoming serious about, I can write, like especially the musical phrases in music. Probably the biggest influence at that time and what made me want to be a guitar player and songwriter was Pink Floyd.
Okay.
They were a big influence on me in at that time when I was about 15, 16,
Mhm.
17, and thinking, yeah, this is good. I might not have to go do an economics degree. I'll be a musician. Ended up doing the economics degree
Oh,
anyway,
right.
just to make sure I had some sort of qualification to do a normal job. But I always did the music, and that would be like you asked. When I think about being a guitarist, I think of David Gilmour, and
Mhm.
Eric Clapton was a big influence to be a guitarist. And I used to watch the videos as well, not just listening to the albums. It's you watch them play, and there's some guitarists that you just go, wow, I just like the way he plays when I see him play. So
Right.
that's pretty cool. So you pick up a few things watching them, and you can see the fretboard. That's a good thing about learning the guitar. You can watch it and go, you
Mhm.
can sort of emulate some sort of emulate what they do. Not saying I'll be as good as them, but I'll get something from it and
Right.
include it in some of my playing. So you got those guys, and Mark Knopfler, of course, as well. That was the Dire Straits was huge. So when you say, did you pick out a few bands? That would be for guitar playing. That's yeah, those three.
Mhm.
And there's lots of other bands that were big influences on the songwriting and just putting stuff together, putting music together, and a musical appreciation. You've
Mhm.
got like progressive rock bands like Genesis
Okay.
and Yes. I think they're just very clever musicians. And out of Genesis, it came Phil Collins. I love Phil Collins, so and Peter Gabriel. So yeah, and when I was a kid, that Phil Collins was huge in the early '80s, massive. And yeah, he was another favourite of mine. So I just saw him on on a music video show or something. And, oh, this guy's great. And Mum and Dad said he's a drummer from Genesis. So you get oh, he drums as well. So that's
Yeah.
drums and sings. That's another thing. What a talent. So
Yeah.
these things, and they stay with you, for the rest of
Mm.
your life, and you're still influenced by those sort of things. So, yeah, there you go. There's my little wrap up of musical influences.
Well, and that's why I like to ask about it, because I do think those formative years when you're a kid, and most artists who are like you and releasing music, it has been from childhood. There are certain acts who have influenced them, and that doesn't mean that they're not shifting and changing as they get older, but it's always interesting to find out
Mm,
because it shapes you as an artist. So that first band you had with your sister and the next door neighbor, how
mm.
long did that last?
That well, we did that when we were about 10. Did that for a couple of years, and then we had a break. And I didn't do much music for a few years between
Okay.
about 12 and 15. And I just picked up the guitar again and said, "Oh, let's get back together again." And we did it again. We had a few more rehearsals, but never ended up being a professional outfit. So we just sort of left it at that. After school, it sort of just stopped. But I continued playing guitar and writing a lot of stuff during my university years. I wrote a lot of material. I think that's where I got my grounding in being a songwriter. Is
Hmm.
just I spent more time doing that than doing my assignments. So the assignments are always on the last night before the due date.
It's the best way to do them.
Rest of
You
the
get
time was just being somebody in the late teens, early 20s.
Look, you get when it's the night before, you get the adrenaline rush. It just powers you through.
That's it. Does it makes you focus,
Yeah.
and when you're focused, you do better. So
Absolutely right. That's my line, and I'm sticking to it. So when you were writing all these songs, were you actually aiming to perform, or did you have a band to perform them with, or you were working solo to perform?
I wasn't working at that time. I didn't do professional gigs till I was about 23. So, but I had all that time, and I yeah, wrote a lot of material and I wasn't really a big lyricist at the time. I was doing lyrics, but I just wasn't happy with it. But I was happy with the way I was constructing the music.
Right.
And I thought, okay, one day I'll get a band together, and then I'll work all that out. And then so eventually, after a couple of years of doing that, I got into a band, into a cover band, and just started doing cover shows. And we got a female singer, vocalist in the band. The other male vocalist left, and we got a female singer. And she came into the band, and we developed like a sort of a friendship beyond friendship, I would say. Well, it did happen that way, and the band broke up because of it. So
Oh
the
no.
classic, the girlfriend breaks up the band situation. So the band blew up, and it turns out that she was a good songwriter as well, and very good with lyrics. So
Right.
I said, "Wow, well that's lucky. We're writing songs," and they were good.
Okay.
So I teamed up with her and she was the main vocalist. So I was writing with her in the context of her singing the songs. So I did a lot of work with her over the years. So that was my first real group, was the duo, and we did a lot of did some rock, but it was mostly pop. I'd call it pop music, and a little bit of dance music. We went to the UK to promote it for a couple of years. This was around 2000, 2001, and she did really well. We got a record deal on 2 songs that we did, and it didn't really go big or anything, so we didn't really get to stay there because the visas run out. We go, oh, okay, come back home, and nothing really happened then. But we broke up, and later on she went back over, and she does really well over there. Rebecca Bergen is her name, so she does good with the dance music, and I just went a different way after we broke up. I just went back to where I'm really influenced by, like what do I love doing most.
Mm-hmm.
And I started writing those classic rock style songs, and just a lot of, and because I'm in the country genre now, it's country rock, but I think it's just developed that way naturally. I think a lot of artists and listeners of music are gravitating towards it because it's a very song and guitar orientated genre.
Yeah.
Whereas at the rock side, the popular rock side doesn't seem to be filling that void. Well, in my opinion, it's not. There's obviously bands out there in pop rock that should be on the radio all the time, but they're just you don't hear of them. But so it just seems like a better fit for the songwriting that I'm doing. So, and I'm lucky enough to have found a producer that really knows what to do with the way I write my songs and what I want in them. And he produces a lot of other modern country artists. So he goes, oh, this will work. The blend of what his ideas and my ideas, we sparked together and it worked really well.
So how did you find him?
I found he was it was at a gig that I was doing. Yeah, and he was there. It was at a dinner in a restaurant, and I was doing a gig there. And I was sitting at his table. It was a birthday party. They hired the whole place, and I was at his table. And he said, "Oh yeah, I'm a producer." Oh well, yeah. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's good. Maybe I should give you my demo. I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, come around. They said, come around. This was in Taree. I was living in the mid-north coast at the time. This was about 10 years ago. And I was living in Port Macquarie. So, and the gig was in Taree. And I said, okay, I'll come down. And he listened to my songs and he loved them. And we just got along really well. And he just knew that he could do a really good production on my songs. His name is Peter Stevenson. Mm-hmm. So shout out to him because he's really done a great job with the recording of this EP. So it's all come together.
So when did you start writing the songs for the EP?
So that's another long period of time where there's some songs that were written closer to the time when we recorded them, but some are pulled out of the archives from way back. So I had this song that I was writing at the time when I was with my former partner way back in, was late 90s. I started writing this song. And that's this release that I've just released, the It's Easy.
Okay.
So I started off as a Fleetwood Mac type. I was really right into Fleetwood Mac at the time. So Lindsey Buckingham and it was just a little sort of a classic rock Fleetwood Mac ditty sort of thing, like something you'd hear off Rumours, I suppose. But but it just got put away. But I showed it to Peter, and he loved it. He said, "We can do something with this." So and it sounds completely different to the original version. And I added some different. He said, "Add some bits here, brighten it up." So it was sort of a song about a relationship falling apart. Okay, it's cool. It's good. It sounds cool, but let's make it brighter and just more radio friendly and punchier and just more exciting. It was just more exciting. You go, okay, it's good. It's coming along. And then he got the musicians on the recording. We got a really good bass player, guitarist, and a backing vocalist, amazing backing vocalist, Kim, that did a great job on that, and drummer, Mitch. The guitarist did a great job because he did something different to what I thought I would put on there. That's the other cool thing is I'm a guitarist, but Peter knew that some of these lead guitar parts and riffs had to be done by this guy that he knew that makes the sound. Which I don't mind because I did a lot of the rhythm parts and wrote a lot of the riffs, but this guy just makes the song, made it sound magical, and you'll hear it. I think people are responding to it because it's a big part of it is the production with the musicians and what they add to it. And I was blown away when I heard it for the first time with all the musicians, what they did on it. This is fantastic. So really happy with that one, and I'm glad it's getting played and getting reviewed, and we're talking about it. So, and that's a long time coming too. So it's paid off.
Well, yeah, but I mean, also for you as a guitarist, it could have gone the other way. You could have actually thought, well, hang on, I know how to play those lead parts. Why aren't I doing it? But obviously, you're very much interested in being in service of the song and what's best for that.
Oh, that is exactly right. In service of the song, and I love playing guitar and I love writing guitar parts, but I know that I'm not the greatest guitarist in the world. Uh, some people might like the way I play guitar, but I think when you say service of the song, but that's why I just trusted the producer to know, okay, your style of guitar playing is good for a certain sound that you want, but he had a different vision for the song, and I trusted him that it would work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you work in a collaboration, you got to let go a bit, even if you're the primary driver of the material.
Yeah.
All your favorite bands, the reason that sounds so good is because of the three or four guys that work together, and it sounds better than when they do something just on their own with their own, only their own ideas. It usually, not all the time, but it usually sounds better. And you like the band stuff better than the solo stuff. You know,
Yeah, right.
and you like the old stuff better than the new stuff because
Yeah.
they worked in a different way back then. They were all into it. All the guys are into it. All excited, and but later on they're over it.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah. Energy was different.
yeah.
So given that some of the songs on the EP were older, and much older, and some were new,
Yes.
out of the older ones, and it sounds like you've been doing a lot of songwriting, how did you choose what you were going to record?
Um, I did. I picked out songs that I want that I thought I would want recorded,
Mm-hmm.
and I can record stuff myself. And I did do some recordings before I did this EP. And I tried to do an EP before, and I just wasn't happy with the sound of it. Um, it was okay. The songs were good, but it didn't set when I compared them to what was coming out on the radio. I thought it just doesn't sound as flash as and I wanted something that was comparable on a level with something that can be marketed today. So I picked the songs, and I think I trusted Peter to go through them. There's probably about 10 or 12 songs.
Right.
So enough for an album. I was thinking, okay, can we do an album? And being realistic, that would have cost a lot of money and taken more time. So we said, let's just pick 5, do an EP. And he picked the 5. He just listened to them and picked the 5 songs. And it really wasn't me that said, oh, let's do this one. It was because I would have been happy to go with any of them because I wrote them all and I've got ideas for them all. So you pick anyone that you think that you can take somewhere. And I think that was the key. And he did. He picked the ones that he had a vision. He had a vision for, and he had a vision for these 5 straight away. He said, "I know what to do with these 5." So that takes a weight off my shoulders. I can just concentrate on just doing my bit, writing the songs and coming up with ideas together with the producer. So, and that's how it went. He picked them. So, yeah, lucky me to find the right guy. So, yeah.
But again, it requires you being able to trust someone, but also be willing to give up some of that control, I guess, of your own project. Is that how you've always been as an artist, that you've been open to collaboration, or is it something that you've learned over time is the best way to work?
No, I write songs in 2 different ways. I used to write them just myself, as a teenager and until I met Rebecca, and then we wrote as a team. Nearly every song we wrote together. She'd start off a song and I'd help do bits in the song, and then I'd start a song. She'd add her bits. So sometimes I'd just write the music and she'd do the lyrics. Sometimes she'd write the music and I'd do the lyrics. So it worked really well. So I learned a lot in doing that. I was inspired by how good she was at coming up with lyrics. So I think it taught me to just trust that this subconscious can sometimes come up with something.
Right.
And if you feel a vibe and it comes out, usually that will be the main part of the song. The stuff that comes out in an inspired way. And the rest is sort of, sometimes you just fill in the gaps because you've got the melody, the gist of the song. Oh, what's this song? Oh, I can fill in the gaps and write another verse to complete the song. So we just used to go back and forwards like that. So I knew how to collaborate from that. But at first I was just it's just me. And when I split up with my girlfriend, we and I went back to writing classic rock and country tunes. It was just me again. So I
Right.
didn't collaborate with others, and I was very fixed on what I wanted
Okay.
and how I do it. And if I had a band, I was thinking, I'll just, it'll just be it. I'm the boss. These are my songs. I've written them. I'm proud of them. You feel like that. I think most songwriters that I've spoken to feel like that as well. It's like you feel really attached in
Mhm.
an emotional way to your artwork, which is your songs. So,
Mhm.
and they're very important to you. So, if you've got a strong idea about them, then you want to see that come to fruition. Is the
Mhm.
word? Isn't it? That's the word. Yeah, fruition. Yeah, yeah. You want it. You want them to be put out into the world as best they can, and usually it's what is in your head because you have production ideas as a musician. You're not just a poet. You're writing lyrics. You're thinking about the sound of it as you're writing it.
Mhm.
And sometimes I wake up in the morning with it in my head, like I've woke up like a dream, and I get my phone out and record quick
Right.
before I forget. I hope I wrote that, because it's cool.
Yeah.
I hope it's not somebody else's song, and usually it isn't. Usually it's something I've written in my head in
Right.
a dream. It happens sometimes. And yeah, and they're the sort of inspirations that the aughts come from somewhere.
Mhm.
There's some sort of something special about me,
Yeah.
and those are the songs that I really follow through. That I don't leave aside. They're the
Mhm.
ones that I try to finish and get recorded because
Mhm.
I've got a lot of songs. I wouldn't know how many songs, but it'd be 100. I don't know how many, but probably more than that. Unfinished songs, and I've got about, I don't know, 20 or 30 that are nearly finished.
Mhm.
I could go into the studio tomorrow and put together 10 songs for Peter and and have them recorded, which I'm planning to do soon too. So that's on the horizon pretty soon. Hopefully by early next year we'll have those all recorded, and I'll have another EP.
Yeah. Right.
Please.
Uh,
Yeah.
there's a handful of artists who have told me that they dream songs. Not many.
All
It
right.
would
Yeah.
appear to be a common thing, but it is the ones who do really trust it, like you
Mm,
do. Like you wake up and just go, okay, I've got to get that down.
yeah.
And some of them, it's as there was one artist I interviewed recently. It tends to happen to her as she's falling asleep. So rather
Ah,
than
yeah.
so
Okay.
she's will have to wake herself up and write it down. But also yes, dreaming songs entirely. So. I always think it's amazing to be able to wake up and actually still remember what was in your head enough to get it down because those
Yeah.
things tend to dissipate quite quickly.
They can, and I think, like I said, that does happen where it's just before you wake up. I think I'm lucky enough to started dreaming it then when I'm sort of starting to be half awake,
Right.
so that
Okay.
I'm lucky enough to wake up just as I've dreamt it,
Right.
and then it's still in my head, and I can work on it as my eyes are open, and I'm still working on it. So I might not have dreamt the whole song, but I can go, I've got the tune, I've got the gist. I can still work on it while I'm in this state before
Yeah.
I'm up and had a coffee and ruined it all.
Yeah. Right.
And hopefully I'm awake enough to sit up and get the phone and record it. Because
Yeah.
sometimes you feel like, I'll just go back to sleep. This is nice.
Mhm.
and,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
and then you might lose it. So yeah, there's a state that's called when you're in between, when you're just falling asleep or just waking up, a theta state or a beta state. I'm not sure
Right.
what it is. Look it up, but it's something, and it's where you're most creative. So that would
Okay.
explain that.
Yeah. Well, and also you were saying a little earlier about learning to trust that your subconscious will come up with something. So obviously, this is when you were talking about co-writing with Rebecca, it was just that idea that the subconscious could provide something. So
Mm,
clearly, you've been aware of this for a while. That things can there are layers of awareness essentially in this creative process. But I also think you can only do something with it if you've laid the groundwork for it. It would be no use if you actually just had an idea and like, oh, that's nice. Now what? It's
now
sort of
what?
like you prepare the ground and then the idea can come through or the subconscious can provide.
Absolutely. I think that, yeah, it's you got to be in a position to take advantage of that inspiration or any luck that comes along or any business opportunity that comes along with music. You got to be ready accept it and do something with it, like you say. And that could be you're proficient at playing guitar and you know what chords to put with it. It could be as simple as that, and make sure the melody's right and fits with the chords. So that's pretty much the basics of songwriting. So if you've got that down, you can do that. But there's the other thing, like I said, if you can know the instruments and have them in your head as well, I think that helps because it makes you more excited about what the finished product would sound like.
Got it.
And I think if you've heard yourself recorded, you can judge that pretty well. Oh, this will sound good, or you can hear an artist you like and go, oh, could sound a bit like that. It could. That's how you can think about production as well. Is like, oh, that sounds like, oh, it's a slower ballad. That would sound like these songs that I've heard. I do it in that way, and usually it's instantaneous the way you choose that. There's no sitting down agonising, oh, should it be like this or that? That's the producer's job. So once I've got it in, I'll have a general idea of how it will be, and then it's good that he comes up with something different. And usually it works when we put our heads together and do it and do the production.
Well, I would suggest it's instantaneous because you have that massive back catalogue in your mind of all that music that you've loved and appreciated over the years and listened to really closely, so that you can essentially draw the file out and say, this is the reference. That's
exactly it. Yeah, you've got a filing cabinet of all this music that's inspired you, and you, if you're lucky enough, you can draw from it on tap. Yeah, it's like. That's exactly right. The way you've put it there is, yeah, you keep all that stuff that you've listened to, and listened to a lot of stuff, but enjoyed it and really got into it and listened to it more than once. Like you buy the records or the CDs, as we used to all do, and you listen to them over and over and really enjoy it. And really, not that you're studying it, but you are. When you're enjoying it over and over, you're subconsciously studying all this stuff and the way it works. And when you're songwriting yourself, like you said, when you get to a certain bit, you get, oh, that would sound good if I go to this chord and put the melody there. But it probably sounds good because you've heard somebody that you really love do that once. You might not know, it's in your subconscious. You might know which song it was or which band it was, but it could be something like that. And that's the material that you've got to draw from, your toolkit, I suppose, that's locked away in there, and you can just bring it out when you need it.
Yeah.
I think it's like that.
I think context is important for everything, and that's the context for you as an artist. So are you playing live a lot around about the place? People want to hear It's Easy live?
I do play live, but I don't play a lot of original shows yet. That's what I'm just working on. I'm a new artist. This is my first EP official real release as a solo artist. So I did play at Tamworth last year, and I'm going to play next year, 2025. That's right. Yeah. I'm going to be there. But I haven't got any of the big stages yet, and I haven't got into any of the big festivals, which I'm starting to apply for, the like Gympie, Muster, and the Broadbeach Groundwater one, and there's lots of others. So I'm hoping next year is where I'll get a bit of a foothold, and because I want to bring out the band. I've got musicians that want to play with me and come out and do some shows, but I haven't got regular gigs with a band lined up. So I found it very difficult to book all that and get that going. But I have been doing for a long time a solo covers show, so I do get to play originals here and there in those shows. They expect to hear the hits, the classic hits at those shows, but occasionally I'll play one of my songs. So hopefully that there's more demand for that as people hear the songs, and they are. I appreciate it so much that they're getting played on the radio, the radio station. The radio stations are playing it now, and presenters like yourself with the podcasts and interviews. It's just great exposure so that people get to hear my music. So I appreciate it.
And quite a few streams from what I saw.
Yeah, there's streams. People are looking at it on the music video that I did as well, and I'm very, very happy that it's that my music's being heard. It's not just recording and I sell a CD to mum and dad and that's it. It's it's gone beyond that. It's in the hands of the public, and I feel like I'm a real artist now. That that I'm actually talked about, heard, and yeah, and now I'm just at that next step where hopefully I get the band out and play live as well. But these are the steps as a new artist that you take, and it's just, and I'm starting to get international play on radio as well. So that's another bonus. So that I can't just get out and play live there anytime I want. So they get to hear me on the radio, and because of the internet and the streaming service, there's a good side to it that people can just jump on. Anyone in the world can hear my music, or see the video, or jump onto my Facebook and make contact, or it's all there. So yeah, it's and that's all without a record company. So this is how most people, I've been told, that they don't do it with a record company anymore. So there's only a limited few that get that full machinery of the record company and the marketing there. So we're going to do it ourselves, but you can do it. You can take those steps to make the world hear and see you as an artist. So I've got to be grateful for that.
Well, you can do it, and you get to choose who your producer is and who your publicist is, and all those sorts of things.
That's right. You have more control as an artist, and I choose my publicist and the producer, and I choose the song. Sometimes you hear these stories about you don't get to choose which songs you put on your record. That would be weird. Yeah, no, you can't do that one. That won't be a hit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I get what. Who knows? But that's what's good about, like I said, work. You pick your people that you work with, and I picked a good team, and it's working fine. So I'm going to keep going. That's the good news. So I've gone through the cycle once. I've still got 2 songs to release off this EP.
Right.
So that will be done by the end of the year. So I'll be ringing my producer and say, hey, you got to fit me in by the end of the year. So we've got something after Christmas. We'll want to release new songs. So I want to keep. There's a momentum thing. You want to keep going. I don't want to leave it too long. So yeah, let's have some more music.
Fantastic. Well, that seems like a good note on which to wrap this up, because it's easy to listen to now. More music coming, and more music to be recorded by the sound of it. Yes, Dean, it's been so interesting to talk to you. Thanks for your time.
It's been lovely. Thanks for having me on your show, Sophie. Good stuff. Thank you.